Hi, I'm Elle Klingerman, and today I will be deep diving into the Catholic faith, how Catholic guilt and whether practicing or not practicing affects the relationships between family members. Now, I grew up Catholic and I'm from a very Catholic family, so I will be comparing almost everyone in my family's experiences. I wanted to find out how exactly Catholicism and the belief of Catholic guilt affects families in different ways. The interview process follows 5 questions. 1. How religion was practiced in childhood. 2. The belief or disbelief of Catholic guilt and its impact. 3. The Church's impact on one's self-expression. 4. How being non-practicing affects the familial relationships. And 5. How comfortable one is in church or mass. I wanted to focus on my family. We have 3 generations of Catholicism, each individual member having different experiences. I wanted to look at why some of us felt connected to religion, while others felt isolation and shame. In contrast to my family, I wanted to interview a Catholic priest to see whether the relationships with religion in my family were unique to us, or whether they could be extended to other families in the Catholic Church. I will also be using some statistics from a study on Catholic guilt and how religion affects individual socialization. How did you practice religion growing up?
We went to Mass every Sunday. My father took us to confession usually every other week. We always prayed before meals. We observed all the holy days. We observed Lent. Religion was very important in my family.
How did you practice religion growing up?
Church every Sunday, Sunday schools in the morning.
How did you practice religion growing up?
Very rarely. I had infrequently went to church. In high school, went to a church with a friend and got saved, and that's about it growing up.
How did you practice religion?
I would say growing up, we went to Mass frequently, had First Communion, and then once my parents got a divorce, we were, I would say, disowned kind of from the church. So then my mom moved to a non-denominational church, which we would go to occasionally, but since I was at different houses every different weekend, it never really kind of stuck. So I've just kind of been floating in between the whole time.
Did you practice religion growing up?
Well, it was very regular. It wasn't the way, I mean, this is no reflection on Lutheranism, but just the way it was carried out in my family. My father was Catholic, so he didn't attend church with us, but my mother would bring us to her church, and it was, it was important to her that we attend church every Sunday. And that, I'd be confirmed and I go to vacation Bible school and things like this. But let me put this up a little bit here so you can see more of me. But we never really, we never ever talked about God or faith at home. And we very seldom said meal prayers, except, for Christmas and Easter.
We were very structured. We had to go to church every Sunday or Saturday night, regardless of whatever was happening, vacation, sports, family get-togethers. So that was a requirement in order to, we just had to do it. And we did go every week.
Do you think just having a childhood in the Catholic Church affects the way you express yourself? Or do you think practicing religion now affects the way you express yourself?
I think both have an impact on how I behave.
Would you like to elaborate?
I try to be honest. I try to have a certain amount of integrity. I try to be kind and thoughtful of others. I try to realize that everybody, no matter who they are or what their status in life is, that we're equal in the eyes of God and therefore should be treated equally.
How do you think your upbringing in your childhood and your upbringing in your young adulthood when you converted affected the way you express yourself now?
Had I not had the experience I had as a young adult, I wouldn't be able to talk about religion. I wouldn't feel comfortable thinking about religion. I wouldn't have any tether to a church or to God or to any of the people that believe in those things, including my wife, including other people that I love very much who have very committed beliefs to that. I wouldn't have an understanding of that. I wouldn't have an appreciation for it if I hadn't gone through confirmation as an adult.
Do you think growing up Catholic affects the way you express yourself?
No, I don't really express myself.
You don't express yourself. Do you think your childhood, like in the church, affects the way you express yourself?
No. I mean, I could elaborate on that.
You don't have to.
I've always been a rebellious little young man, so it never affected me. If anything, it made me more outspoken.
Mm-hmm. Do you think your upbringing in the Catholic Church affects the way you express yourself now?
Yes, I think it's the way I express myself. Yeah, I think that Catholicism is very judgmental and hypocritical, at least in the era that I grew up. So I had to be careful about maybe some of my own personal beliefs or opinions, and had to restrain myself in some of those conversations.
Do you think your religious upbringing affects the way you express yourself?
Yeah, I do. My religious upbringing was mostly from my mother, and she didn't use religious vocabulary, but she got the point across about do unto others as you would have them do unto you, although I never heard her say that. To be concerned about others, not to be selfish. Those were lessons that she and my father really instilled in us.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it has its origin in their faith. Even though my father didn't practice Catholicism for many years after he got married, still the origin of that, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, goes back to his faith, as it did with my mother.
Do I believe in it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure.
Do you think it has had an impact on your life?
Not at all.
Do you believe in Catholic guilt?
No, I don't. I mean, I know what guilt means, and I know what the stereotype of Catholic guilt is you got to feel guilty about it so you won't do it. It's like a way of changing your behavior based on some standard. I don't live my life that way at all. So I know that exists, and I know that really it's a stereotype of that exists.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I don't make choices based out of what would be quote unquote Catholic guilt.
Okay. Do you believe in the concept of Catholic guilt?
Well, I believe in guilt. I don't know if it's, I've never thought of guilt in terms of Catholic guilt. I mean, if you do something that's wrong, if you slap your mother or murder your father, normal people would experience some guilt, and that's the way it's supposed to be. Unless your parents were psychotics or something and did all kinds of mean things to you. But, without guilt, I think society would just disappear. It's a sense of unfairness, of being wrong, of having been at times extremely selfish. And when we are wrong, and it's a kind of pain too, guilt, we want to get rid of it. Now, when you say Catholic guilt, so there's guilt. There's just plain human guilt. I guess that expression Catholic guilt, which is sometimes used by critics of the Catholic Church, or maybe people who are just having fun, is guilt over trivialities, And yeah, we shouldn't become scrupulous. We shouldn't have guilt over, I spilled my drink. I left a spot on the floor or something, that would be ridiculous. But sometimes Catholic guilt is also, that expression is used to mock people who do have values, such as chastity in a relationship, that, she's no fun because she has Catholic guilt or something. Well, that's a pretty shabby judgment of a value system that people have lived by for centuries and have found, that it works. So I think, Catholic, we all experience guilt. And if Catholics feel more guilty, well, maybe they have, at times consciences that are more developed, but consciences can also be warped, and we can feel guilty about things that we shouldn't feel guilty about.
I believe in guilt. I don't know exactly what Catholic guilt means. I've never felt guilty for not observing a Catholic dogma or agreeing with a priest or what they might say or teach. That might be a function of coming to the church later in life.
Yeah.
Had I come to church earlier, I might feel differently.
Okay.
I don't follow Catholic guilt. Is that the question? Wait, was?
Yeah, do you think it's a real thing? Do you
I believe. Oh, Catholics have Catholic guilt for sure.
Yeah.
Me, I don't have Catholic guilt.
Well,
I'm not Catholic, but like, I don't know. If I was Catholic, I don't think I'd have Catholic guilt.
Do you believe in Catholic guilt?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Would you say Catholic guilt had an impact on your life?
Yes. I think the divorce was huge. In a way, that was guilt on my grandma for raising her daughter to believe that she could get a divorce or whatever, and it just caused this huge tension. My mom was going to go to hell because she got a divorce. Grandma, I think, had to repent many times because her child got a divorce, and it sure doesn't make sense. And I think even now with like LGBT communities and just race in general, I see it all the time with her. Someone could say something and she has to automatically shut it down because if she even thinks about it, she feels guilty.
Yeah.
So do you believe in Catholic guilt?
Yes.
And how do you think Catholic guilt has made an impact on your life?
I think it has made me feel less confident about some of the choices or decisions that I've made. Just not really knowing if I was doing the right thing, or I was always trying to seek approval, not only with my family, but just internally, like, is this acceptable? Is this authentic or right? And so I struggle with, and not even with my relationship with God now, but more with my relationship I feel with my family. Like, more, I'm comfortable with who I am now and the choices that I make, but I'm not comfortable sharing those decisions with my parents because of the Catholic guilt, I think. How would they filter that? And what would their approval be like?
Do you believe in Catholic guilt?
I think that's overplayed. I think everybody has guilt. People say, you know, oh, you Catholics, you feel guilty about everything. I think anybody that does anything wrong, somewhere within them, they know that they're guilty. And it's not more so a Catholic thing than it is anybody's thing, as long as that person has integrity within themselves.
Do you feel comfortable during Mass?
Yeah.
Would you like to elaborate on that?
I've never felt uncomfortable.
Okay.
I don't really pay very close attention though, so I wouldn't know what they're actually talking about most of the time.
Do you feel comfortable during Mass?
Yes.
Okay. Do you feel comfortable in church/Mass?
Well, it depends on the church. I mean, it's a universal church, so we're supposed to feel comfortable in all of them. But there are churches whose climate, it doesn't match what I think a church should be. And there are Catholic churches whose pastor has a much more conservative or disciplined view of what it means to be Catholic, and I don't feel comfortable in those.
And what is how comfortable do you feel during Mass?
How comfortable do I feel during Mass?
Like, do you feel comfortable or?
I feel very comfortable during Mass.
Okay. Would you like to elaborate on that?
It's probably more of a function of the churches we attend, but the churches we attend are open and welcoming, not judgmental. My experience in Protestant churches, small churches in rural towns in northern Indiana, I never felt welcome there. I never felt at home there. I always felt judged, and that they knew that I didn't believe that they needed to save me, that kind of thing. Never once felt like that in a Catholic church. In a Catholic church, I've always felt welcome, comfortable, and at home.
Do you feel comfortable in Mass?
No, half the time I don't even know what they're talking about. It's so boring. I mean, you sit there and you listen to them talk in a like being an educator, I know how to engage people and talk, and I feel like these people who are up there are talking about something that they don't know about. They don't understand. They're just preaching scripture, and they're not making it applicable. And then I'm just always thinking about the end, where what do I do when communion time comes? Am I going to go up? Am I going to sit down? Am I going to try to leave before the music starts? I mean, that's a big thing, you know? Yeah. So I feel super uncomfortable during Mass.
Comfortable in Mass?
Well, I don't like to go anymore. I used to go out of respect for my mom, because I think she felt badly for me if I didn't go on a Sunday. If she was in the area, like, oh, I missed church, I'm going to hell, I'm sinning today. But I didn't miss it. I always felt like I was suffocating every time I was there, and I would watch her and I'd think, you know, she must be getting something out of it. And sometimes she would go late and leave early and just be irritated the whole time she was there. And I thought, wow, why are we here? You know, if you feel this way, how do you think I feel? Yeah. I'm feeling pressure to go, and I don't like it. And I'm watching you suffer through it too. I thought, but you know, over time you look at things through a different lens, and I can see how her faith did carry her through some very difficult times, and I would not want that for her or even for me. I'm thankful for having that foundation to build upon, but it's not the direction that I want to continue to grow in. And for me personally, because I didn't feel the connection. I didn't even early on. I always questioned what these rules don't make sense. Why are we doing them? And I never got good responses, or at least I didn't feel like they were good answers to the questions. I felt like it was just a routine. But through tragedy and change and life circumstances, I can see how having that relationship or that that experience to draw back on is very, very helpful in whether it's Catholicism or any other type of Christian religion. Having a relationship with God is very important, and I don't know how people would be able to get through some really hard times without knowing of a higher power is looking over you and watching you, and knowing that once you get through it, it's going to be okay. So I think I detoured your question, but anyway.
All right. How did being non-practicing affect your relationship with family members in the faith?
Oh, well, my grandma doesn't like me. um, yeah, my grandma doesn't like me at all. That's fine, though. It's probably for more reasons than just Catholicism, but that's probably a large one. My mom got a divorce, which is very against the Catholic faith. Other than that, most of my family members treat me the same. But like, I've always been against Catholicism, so if I was with Catholicism, I don't know if they treat me any differently. That would be a weird perspective, but
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. We
We
don't need to test it.
Because you don't consider yourself Catholic, how is that? I mean, we've obviously touched this subject throughout all these questions, but how does that affect your relationship with your family members in the faith?
It's huge, I think. Even from such a young age, even not knowing really why my grandma was not talking to us, or it just causes big rip. For a very long time, my mom and my grandma weren't close, and we lived states away, so that caused her to resent us more, and she didn't like my dad, and so I feel like it's put a huge damper on my just connection with that side. Because I don't believe necessarily what she believes. She thinks I'm a bad person, but I believe in being good, and I believe in, I want to believe in God. I don't know if I have the tools to do it yet, but I'm always feel like we just can't talk about it. And whenever Easter and Christmas come up, we're always like, oh, are we gonna go? Like, what do we do? How do we act? How do I do certain things? And it's always just, our whole family is Catholic except for us, and so that's hard to figure out sometimes.
Leaving the Catholic Church affected your relationships with your family members who are still practicing?
For a very long time, I didn't feel worthy or good enough to be part of my mom's family. My dad's family really isn't close, and so it didn't really impact me, but I've always been close to my mom's family because they were they got together often, and that is a good part of growing up Catholic. I think the family unit is important, but at the same time, it's easy to exclude somebody who is not practicing Catholicism. So I wasn't included in some of the major occasions, and it really hurt my feelings. And I don't know if they realized that it was hurting my feelings, or if they were just trying to follow the rules of the church. For example, when my grandmother died, I was the only one that wasn't included in the service, nor were my children. And we couldn't even take communion during her funeral because we weren't practicing Catholics. Although in some situations from the outside, I viewed myself as more of a Christian than some of those people who were participating in that ceremony. And it just always made me feel, not good enough, and shunned, and not really part of the family anymore.
In conclusion, I found that those of us who stayed in the church and continued to follow the Catholic doctrine feel a connection to one another as well as to their religion. Going to church and practicing the rituals and traditions of being Catholic bind them together in ways that add to their feelings of belonging and connection. They do not place much emphasis on Catholic guilt and its impact on their lives is minimal and neutral. In contrast, those of us who left the church feel a lack of connection to those who continue to practice. We feel isolated from the family as well as from the church. The rituals and traditions from our childhood are sometimes a source of pain. We also have strong opinions regarding Catholic guilt. For us, it is real and something that had a negative and powerful impact on us. Thank you.